Three. Into the
Into the
next
life
life
with
with Drew
Drew
and
and
me.
me.
Okay, welcome to the Drew and Me podcast, where we talk about music, movies, whatever else we want to talk about. And we do sketches sometimes. And today we are joined by local Philadelphia comedian James or McElhenney.
Hey, this is James. I'm here. We're like 10 minutes apart drive, but we're like, nah, we're gonna do this on Zoom.
Oh yeah. You know, I feel like we're current. I feel like we're 2021. This is how people do meetings in 2021. So we are current.
Oh, yeah, I know. Can't you see my sick setup with my bokeh and like my really good quality camera? Whereas you got that trash webcam.
Oh,
uh, I'm kidding. But you know about lighting? I could teach you a lot about lighting. I think
mm,
you could do with like a light in front of you so your background is lighter than your face. I
okay.
think we could change that. Get like a desk lamp like that or something. Um, Sorry, didn't mean to start off aggressively or anything like that.
No, that's all right, dude. I understand about the cosmetics. Like to be honest, like there's always like things that can be improved.
Listen, it's your thing, you do you. But if you
Oh,
ever need some help lighting something, if you want to look a little bit better, talk to me.
oh,
I know what I'm doing.
James McElhenney. Okay. um. So today we're going to look at favorite Simpsons episodes. Simpsons what is and was a very important show to both James and me. It is one of our favorite TV shows of all time. We are going to rank our top 10 Simpsons episodes today. Let's get started right off the bat. James, what is your now? Did you rank them in order, or did you rank them, or is there no order? Is it just your 10 favorites?
Well, I first ranked them with no order, but then I ranked them with order. So there is an order. I have a top 10.
Okay.
Let me give some context for my top 10.
Okay.
Just to tease people. So they're like, ooh, like his top 10 is more interesting than a boring top 10. The first thing is I will say that I haven't watched The Simpsons in probably 10 years just because uh I used to have it all on DVD and watch them on DVD, but it was French DVDs, so like it was a zone two, and we just didn't have a DVD player, and now we have Disney Plus. We just got Disney Plus, so we can watch them, or I can watch them, but I haven't. So my ranking is based on like my fond memories of them as like a child when they were probably the most important to me. So a big part of my ranking is like how well I remember them, you know what I mean? And how fondly I remember them. So if you watch it again, you're like, oh, this is trash. Well, it was very important and funny to me as a kid. But I don't think any of them are trash. And I will also say that they were all from the first three series, except for two, which were both written by Greg Daniels, or the story idea. One of them was written by John Swartzwelder, but Greg Daniels came up with the story idea. Um, and uh, and it used to be only one, but there was a last minute addition because I was just fiddling around with stuff. I tried to watch all of my top 10 recently. I probably watched like 7 or 8 of my top 10 just because of time and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm excited about this. And you want to know what my number one, my 10, number 10, right?
Mm.
You want to
uh,
count down from 10 to 1,
y'all,
right?
y'all, you know, it's the kind of thing like it's kind of like the anticipation has to build. So
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. Let's start with 10.
Okay. 10 is from season 8, episode 2. Do you know it yet?
No.
It's a story by Greg Daniels, written by John Swartzfelder. It's a James Bond parody. It's starring the guy from Nemo. What's his name? I'm forgetting it.
It's You Only Move Twice. It's
Yes,
the voice of
it's
Albert
You Only
Brooks.
Move
You Only Move
Twice.
Twice.
You Only Move Twice. Yes. This is my 10 because it's a really fun episode. I just love it. Brooks. What's his first name again? Not Mel Brooks.
Albert
Brooks.
Brooks. Yeah.
Albert Brooks, amazing performance. I just love like the contrast of like evil and good, and but it is like most of the Simpsons episode I really like was because of the emotions, and the emotions aren't as strong in this one, but it's just a fun episode. That's why it's number 10 for me. Should we summarize it? It basically, Homer gets a new job with his boss, Albert Brooks. I forget his name. Do you remember his name? Hank something. But he's essentially
Scorpio.
like Hank Scorpio.
Hank
That's
Scorpio,
right.
Yeah.
He's like a James Bond villain. And like he's all night. Like he gives them great housing benefits. He treats them nicely. He listens to Homer Simpson's dreams and aspirations.
Yeah.
And at the end, like James Bond is like coming to get Hank Scorpio because he's like it's a base in a volcano, and like Homer stops him so they kill James Bond. And the whole thing is exploding. It's like the end of a James Bond movie, and Homer's like, I guess I don't like this job. I'll go back to my old one. And it was a fun time.
No, like that one has some really funny moments. The James Bond parody, I think, is like really, really solid. Homer buying Tom Landry's hat is probably my favorite moment in the episode. The coach of the Dallas Cowboys, when he's like, Tom Landry's hat, like he gets so excited about that. And honestly, like seeing Homer Simpson get excited is like one of the greatest things.
And he's like
yeah, it's so great in TV. Like seeing
at the end, he's like, the Denver Broncos. What? What a ripoff. Because he's like, I couldn't get the Dallas Cowboys, but I got you the Denver Broncos.
And he's like, you just don't understand football. Which the Simpsons writers went for it. Like, like I'm surprised they didn't get in more trouble with some of the stuff they did. Because like some of the stuff was like really like, wow, you guys are really picking fights with people, like seriously. But it is all in fun. Like it is jokes, it's all in fun. I don't think they actually meant any offense. I think they're just really cynical.
I will say this, that one of the episodes that I really liked as a kid that is no longer on Disney Plus, it has pissed people off, so it's taken off the air, is Stark Raving Dad.
I noticed that. I think it's a rights issue.
No, it's not. It's a Michael Jackson is a bad person issue.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought it was rights to Michael Jackson's voice on the show.
No, it's Al Jean came out and was like, we think the reason why he agreed to do the show is to reach a younger audience so that he could groom people. Because of that reason, we're going to take it off the air. So that's why it's off the air. Yeah, which fair, I'm not going to argue with that.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Let's see. I understand that, but it is a great episode, and hearing Michael Jackson sing in the episode is really great. And on the audio commentary, they actually said there was another guy in the studio, so they're not sure if it was actually Michael Jackson singing or another guy in the studio actually singing with the recorded song. So it could have been the other guy.
They had an imitator. Yeah, doesn't matter though. Like
no. To be honest, it's a great episode, and
yeah, it was.
The music is so good. Like it's such great music.
It's a shame Michael Jackson, all that. Anyway, this episode isn't about that.
No. Let's see. I couldn't really stop at 10 episodes, so I think I did 12.
You were like, well, I remember first you're like top 20. I'm like, I'm not, I work, like I do comedy. I don't have all the time in the world.
No.
Also, I'm like, that's going to be like a 5-hour podcast. Like,
oh boy. Yeah.
Which would be fun, but I think 10 is good. Or in your case, 12.
Yeah. Oh, so I kind of agree that 20 is a bit much.
Give your 3 all at once. Give your like 12, 11, and 10 all at once.
Okay.
So we're on the same track, you know.
Homer versus Patty and Selma.
Good episode.
Daz Bus.
Which
one? Daz Bus.
Okay.
And Lisa the Simpson. Let's see. So Homer vs. Patty and Selma, I believe it's from season 6. I'm not sure of the episode order, but I believe it's from 6. Daz Bus, I think, is from 7. I could not. It could be from like 10. I'm not sure. Occasionally I get those confused. Lisa the Simpson, I believe, is I just looked it up today. It's from season 9. So Homer vs. Patty and Selma, like I'm gonna say the best Homer Simpson episode for me personally.
Why is it number 1 then?
Because he's not my favorite character. So, and I don't think he has the strongest episodes.
Yeah. Wait,
even though
which character? Which character are we talking about?
Homer.
Oh, Homer. Okay.
So we're talking about Homer Simpson, and no, like honestly, Homer versus Patty and Selma. Probably my favorite part of it is the beginning where he's talking about the jack-o'-lanterns, and he has this kind of like scheme of like investing in jack-o'-lanterns. Like, and it's gonna peak right at Halloween, and then after that,
so good,
and it doesn't, and he gets his family in like really financial strife, and he has to borrow money from Patty and Selma, and then they have him do like all this like weird stuff, like behave like a dog, like my name is Romer Rimpson. And I remember listening to audio commentary and listening to Matt Groening's laughter at that part, like the amount that he enjoyed it. He's like, you guys are talking over one of my like top favorite parts of the show. Like he was like, this is one of my favorite parts of the show was so, and I wonder why that was. Like I
Yeah.
almost wonder, was Matt Groening's father like Homer Simpson? Because I know Matt said he based it on his family.
Yeah, I think his dad's name was Homer. Um, yeah, no, that is fine. It is interesting because like people like different because there's so many characters. And I was
Yeah.
talking to my sister about this, who's a big Simpsons fan, and you mentioned the commentary. She was very upset that there was no commentary on Disney Plus.
I know. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I agree. The commentary is great, and you get like the
yeah.
writer's perspective, and you get the stuff and you get an idea for the things like they really, really like or care about. But
And I think they have like multiple versions of commentary too. Like they did one earlier, they did one, there's a lot. So there's no reason they shouldn't put that in Disney Plus. And also, she really likes the Patty and Selma episodes as well, and she
okay.
really likes the Sideshow Bob episodes, which
Mm,
aren't my most favorite ones. But it's just interesting how different people like different things. And so I
yeah,
really like the
and Patty and Selma are so funny, and in the episode where they void Homer's license, and they're like, oh, 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 it feels so good. Oh, I just got to do that again.
yeah,
Like they are so vindictive. Like they are like
yeah,
some of the most vindictive characters. Like
and they just
just,
grunt to talk. It's great. Yeah.
but they're having fun. So you know what? They're having fun.
Yeah.
And like, um, and like they're like, you didn't fill in the circle all the way. Now you fail. Like Homer fails another one of life's tests.
Yeah.
That's such a great soundbite. That's such a great line. That's such a great recording. Julie Kavner did both of those voices, and Marge. She's really a tour de force. Like I think she's a really
Yeah.
gifted voice actress. She's also done some on-screen stuff, but Julie Kavner is really talented, and I really love what she brought to Patty and Selma. I agree with your sister. Patty and Selma are some of like the strongest characters, and their
Yeah.
back and forth with Homer is so funny. And you see Homer really want to fight back, and you see Homer actually try. Like he actually, like you see him get motivated in the episode. Like he actually tries to get his chauffeur's license. Like when has Homer ever been that motivated to do anything? Never.
Yeah.
So
Well, my number 5 episode, he's very motivated, but we're not there yet.
okay, okay, okay. Um, yeah, no, you have a point of like he gets motivated, but he gets motivated every once in a while.
Yeah.
And um
Well, so what I like about number 5 is he gets into a lot of shit by like having no motivation, and then he gets so motivated. Anyway, we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, he'll get motivated for like dumb shit, like the jack-o'-lantern scheme. That takes a lot of
absolutely.
motivation, but it's
And they
just
honestly don't explain it either. Like they don't explain like why he gets so into it, but
yeah. And yeah, at the end of the day, like he does care about his kids and he is motivated for his family, I think, which is why it's so good. Because
yeah,
that's what I like. That's what I remember. Like even if some of the jokes don't hold up, the stories and the emotions still hold up. Like
yeah.
I cried in some of these episodes. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh man, yeah. Whew, yeah. Yeah. Um, no, and Homer versus Patty and Selma, it is like a really touching episode, and at the end,
Mhm.
Homer, he, he like falls on his sword for Patty and Selma so they don't get fired because they're smoking in the federal building, which I'm not sure if they would have actually gotten fired. I think probably just a leave of absence or would have cost them their promotion. But
Yeah.
he takes the cigarettes and the woman's like, "Those are yours," and he's like, "Yep, I'm in flavor country." It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So, but he does it for Marge. So, he really does love his family,
Yeah.
just like you were saying. So
Yeah.
it is a good Homer episode. Like he's really redeemable, and it's so funny. Like it's 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 such a funny episode. Uh, let's see. So the Dad's Bus episode, that's super funny. That's kind of the Lord of the Flies episode where they're in Model UN, the kids are in Model UN, and they go on the trip, and Otto's the bus driver, and then they're doing the fruit race, and um Bart and Nelson are like, "Go Apple, go Orange," and then Ralph's like, or go Banana." And then Millhouse, here's trouble. Millhouse, he's like, "Go Grapefruit, go Grapefruit," and the grapefruit gets in Otto's eyes. They get in an accident. Bad stuff happens. But I remember like growing up watching the show with my mom and sister, and like, "Go Grapefruit." Like honestly, we would just say "Go Grapefruit," and we called the episode "Go Grapefruit." So that like that was a big episode for like um me and my family growing up. And it's a solid Millhouse episode. Millhouse is my favorite Simpsons character. Like uh honestly, pound for pound, I think he's never wasted. He's always funny. He has so many good one-liner. He has so much great personality, and his voice because he's not he's Tress, right? Because he's not Maggie Roswell or Rusty Taylor. He's Tress McNeil, right?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I know he's not a Nancy.
Yeah.
Because
right now.
Because Nancy does Ralph, Nelson, Jimbo, Bart, I think Kearney.
Pamela Hayden.
Pamela Hayden. Okay. Yeah. She does a great job with Millhouse. Like her Millhouse is just wonderful. Like no, like he's my favorite character. Not necessarily my favorite episodes, but definitely my favorite character. Yeah. Like I think just like pound for pound, he like steals the show. Like
there's one of my favorite episodes he's gonna make an appearance in. Sorry, I keep teasing him.
No. He's so funny. He's so funny, and like the pitch to his voice, and you also feel really bad for him, but he also gets really into stuff. So
he's not a leading character, I think is what you're saying. He's a great supporting character.
Yeah. He's kind of like the Paul Pfeiffer of the show. If you've seen yeah, the Fred Savage show, The Wonder Years. If you've seen The Wonder Years, I feel like he's kind of the Paul Pfeiffer, and he also gets a girlfriend before Bart, which so I feel like he is kind of the Paul Pfeiffer, but he's just super funny, and Pamela Hayden does a really good job with him. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm taking so long. And then number 10, Lisa the Simpson, because Bart and Homer, they put the pots and pans on our heads and they jump at each other, and it's so stupid but so wonderful. Like it's so joyfully playful, and the timing is perfect. I know Susie Dieter directed the episode. I don't think the episode works as a whole, but it has some of the individual funniest Simpsons moments that I can think of, even though I don't think the episode works as a whole, because there's something about like the tone in the episode. But that is one of my favorite Simpsons episodes ever. It's so funny. And I think they also react to it on the audio commentary. So it is kind of like it's kind of like having a laugh track, having them on the audio commentary, seeing what they react to, which can be helpful to the audience, and also for people who don't realize why it's funny. So it can be informational and educational. So yeah, I agree about the audio commentary, but also one of my favorite moments ever, top five Simpsons moments, is in that episode where Lisa is, I think she goes to like an open mic or like a private show of a woman she's playing like the violin with a saw, and she's so into it. And she says to the guy next to her, you have to listen to the notes she's not playing. And the guy's like, yeah, I could do that at home. He's like, ugh, I could do that at home. It's so funny. Like, like those writers, like they've such a dark sense, like they've such a darkly wonderful sense of humor. But
Yeah.
if you don't like, it's one of those jokes that you have to get. Like that's kind of one of those inside baseball kind of comedian jokes that you have to understand like the culture. And it's a commentary on mics. It's a commentary on open mics or like independent underground music. And some people get it, some people don't. It's so brilliant.
Yeah.
It's such a brilliant joke, and Susie Didier really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
So I don't think the episode works as a whole, but it has two of the funniest moments in any Simpsons episode, and I give her endless credit for that.
Yeah. Good.
All right, so that was number 10 for me. What is number 9 for you?
Number 9, I don't know how to pronounce this episode. I even gave up spelling it correctly, but it's called Burns Verkerfer de Korkorka.
Okay. From season 3.
It's from season 3, episode 10. This is when Mr. Burns sells his power plant to German people. I just, from as a kid, like my favorite moment was just when the Germans are talking to him, and he's just like, they're like, after all, we come from the land of chocolate. And then he's like, ooh, the land of chocolate. And then he's like dancing around with like, chocolate bunnies and stuff like that. That was just a favorite moment of mine. I also liked when they are in, the Germans like come and they like have this meeting. They're like, so how's everyone doing? Do we have any alcoholics? They're like, I'm an alcoholic. I'm drunk right now. And they're like, we're gonna send you all to rehab or whatever. And Homer's like, what the hell? It was just a fun episode. I really liked it. It was just interesting. It kind of, you don't see this very much, but it kind of, whatever little relationship there is there, you do see the Homer Mr. Burns relationship displayed, the early version of it displayed, which I thought was very interesting, where he's like, yeah, I hate him, he's my enemy, but I want to keep him close. It's like, yeah, we need each other to survive, kind of, which was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, like no, like I think it's a really cool episode. And when like didn't like I think Bart, like he's hanging out at Moe's, and they're like, say hey goodbye, like to Mr. Burns. And they missed Mr. Burns, they needed him. So, but that's a great moment, and then they needed him. So, it's kind of like karma.
He's like a guy we all hate, but like we need to hate him because mindless corporate overlords are worse than that. But it was funny how horrible they were to him. Yeah, after he no longer had any power.
Yeah. That is kind of interesting. And yeah. Yeah. No, I think I'm not sure if any Mr. Burns episodes made my list, but a great character. And I know the writers really had a good time writing Mr. Burns, like a lot, because they said that on the commentary. I'm not sure which season, but that they really enjoyed writing they really enjoyed the Mr. Burns episodes. And you can tell, like, Harry Shearer has a really good time with the character. And they have him do really cool stuff. So, number 9 for me would be would be Bart's girlfriend, which I can't remember.
Kudrow?
No, Lisa Kudrow. She plays Alex in War to the Dance.
Who plays?
No, that's Meryl Streep. It's Bart's girlfriend. Yeah. I think it's. I'm not sure which season. I think it's like 6 or 7, or it could be later. But it was one of the best Simpsons episodes. It's when the writers really had it going on. They had great showrunners, they had great directors, great writers, great actors. Everything was clicking. It was in the heyday of the Simpsons. It was also when I started watching the Simpsons.
That's important.
Yeah.
I started with the season 1, 2, and 3 DVDs, so that's what resonates with me the most. So I think that's a very important part of it.
Yeah, no, because that kind of explains like the psychology behind it, and like what our attachments were and how we got kind of into it. And so, if people like kids nowadays, maybe they're watching the current episodes, so they have like a completely different relationship with it. So no, I think that's really interesting. So I do love Meryl Streep a lot in the role. She plays the femme fatale like really well, and kind of like the bad reverend's daughter, which I'm not sure if that's still a stereotype, but that was a stereotype then. Like, your dad's the minister, he's the preacher, your kids are in trouble. But yeah, she got kicked out of school, and so she's back in Springfield and she's hanging out with Bart. And it's interesting because you get to see Bart actually try to restrain himself, because he's like, I'm a petty thug, Jessica's turning me into a criminal. So like, she's corrupting him, which is interesting that it's a girl that's actually corrupting him. So
yeah, that's
because
usually corrupts you. It's usually a girl.
Because it's usually the boys that get like the bad rap, but in this episode it's the girl. Yeah. But it's mostly a male writing staff, so it's probably part of it. But no, it's kind of refreshing because it's usually boys who get a bad rap. So to see like the girl, and she is a really smart character. I think Jessica's great, and Nancy Cartwright gives an excellent read of my favorite line of the series, where Bart's talking to Lisa and he's really struggling with being with Jessica, and he's like, she's like a milk dud, Lisa, chocolate on the outside, poison on the inside.
Good one.
And they have him like laying on the bed and just like in like agony as he says it, and it's so theater, it's so theatrical, it's like Hamlet, it's Shakespearean. And the Simpsons writers, so brilliant, such like, but it really is like Shakespeare. Like, it's incredible, and it is, in my opinion, the best joke from the Simpsons, because brilliantly delivered, resonates, like where Bart is on the bed, he's talking to Lisa, which is interesting. He's obviously like in agony, and it riffs, it's kind of inside joke on pop culture, because if you don't know what milk duds are, you might not get it, but it's like a commentary on milk duds, which obviously it's exaggerated humor, but it's also just so well delivered.
Yeah. Yeah. I think well said.
And timing, like The Simpsons has brilliant timing and editing, and the joke has such good timing. And so for that, I give the writers credit. I don't know who wrote that episode, but I should look it up, but I'm not even sure if they're the one that wrote the joke, but it doesn't matter. Because sometimes they forget like who writes the individual jokes. Like some like they might remember their first joke that made it into a show. Like
Yeah.
I know I think Ron Hauge said something about that. Ron Hauge, one of the best Simpsons writers, did when Homer's a trucker, did that episode or the with yeah he did that episode. And the episode was really good. And I think he did Lisa's rival too.
Yeah.
So Ron Hauge, one of the underrated, unsung Simpsons writers, like one of the really good ones, was Ron
Yeah.
Hauge. Um, uh, so let's see. What is episode 8 for you?
8 for me. And this episode honestly could be higher, but you have to pick an order. So this is from season 3, episode 3, Bart the Murderer.
Ooh.
This was a really good one. Like I
Mm.
said, it probably could be higher. But this is the one where Bart joins the mafia. And I just love the story arc of this where everything's going. He's so excited for life because that's kind of who Bart is. But then everything is going like shit. He stubs his toe. He forgets his permission slip to the chocolate factory. So they're
Okay.
all the chocolate factory. Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I thought someone came in.
No,
Or
no,
something.
no, 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 no.
And yeah, get comfortable.
Okay.
uh, and so they're like they're all having fun at the chocolate factory, and he's like licking envelopes or something.
Yeah.
And so then he like trips on a skateboard, and the mafia take him in, and they're nice to him, and he figures out he can sell drinks well. And then Principal Skinner disappears, and the mafia turn on him and blame everything on him. And they bring him into court, and it's like The Godfather, where they like have like a crime family chart, and Bart's at the top of it and stuff. And they're
Oh
like,
boy.
yeah, he had a lot of buffers, and like I don't know, it's just all like
Uh-huh.
it's I forget all the funny like mafia terms they said, but it was great. And like his lawyer is of course the horrible Lionel Hutz. It was
Oh.
it was just a great. I
Mm.
love the arc where the mafia betrays him, and then he gets off, and yeah, it was and turns out Principal Skinner was just trapped under his car. He wasn't knocked off by them.
Yeah. 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 Um. Uh. Um. Yeah. Um.
You want trivia? You want me to give you one trivia? Because at the end, there's a made-for-TV movie about Bart's story.
Oh yeah.
And do you remember who plays Bart Simpson? Jane Seymour as the man Bart loved. Do you
Interesting.
remember who played Bart Simpson?
In general.
In the TV movie?
No.
TV's Doogie Howser, Neil
Okay.
Patrick Harris as Bart Simpson. And then they have like an impression of him like, get out of my way, Skinner. Bam, bam, bam. He's this asshole and stuff like that. But yeah, that was like a funny, like those throwaway funny things at the end are just great.
Yeah, they probably should have had that earlier in the episode. Yeah. That was really cool though. Yeah. No. That's one of the episodes I actually also like is Bart the Murderer because he gets a job. Bart gets a job. He's 10, but he gets a job. He works for the mob. It's kind of a play on the movie Goodfellas. It actually straight up is.
Yeah.
It's in homage
Yeah.
to the movie Goodfellas, which is one of my favorite movies. And
But they didn't. Did they turn on? I mean, I guess they did eventually, but yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a condensed version. I don't know why I'm like, did they follow the exact story arc? I mean, but yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Uh. Honestly, like it was like the right amount of like mob introduced into the show because it's not like the whole episode, but it's like great Joe Montana and like he's like, is this Skinner? Is he giving you trouble? I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
just um, um, uh,
And the great, like, I think they talked about in this commentary, the great uh where they're like, hey, did you guys steal these cigarettes? And he's like, well, say your family needs bread, but is it okay to steal the bread? And he's like, yeah, well, say they don't like bread, say they like cigarettes. It's like, I guess so. And say don't they like a lot of cigarettes. I forget exactly, but it was like this logic that like eh, he was like, okay, yeah, I guess I could see that, you know.
mm, mm, um, 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 and there's a great Homer line. Homer's like, "Are these yours, Bart? I'll make you smoke them all." And Bart's like, "They're not mine, Dad." Okay. So, um, uh, um, yeah. So no, I I'm with you on Bart the Murderer. That's a really underrated episode. It's super morbid, so I don't necessarily think kids should watch it, but it's pretty underrated. Um, all right. Episode for me, my number 8 pick would be Lisa the Vegetarian, which I think it's from season 7, which I think is the strongest season in my opinion. I'd say that 7 is my favorite, either 6 or 7, but I'm gonna say 7 is my favorite Simpsons season. Lisa the Vegetarian, great episode. Paul McCartney is in the episode, and he's really funny in it. And uh, there's the famous barbecue, and then like Mr. Burns is like, "I'll do something when pigs fly," and you see the pig flying over, and then they stop laughing. And Smithers is like, "So, do you want to do that now, sir?" And Mr. Burns is like, "No." So, um, yeah, like there's great moments like that in it, and it's a great Lisa and Homer episode where they're so against each other. But you can tell they do have a great relationship, and the episodes where they bond is like always really awesome. And when they're eating like the meat at the table and Bart says, I agree with Lisa, I think eating meat is eating meat is uh 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 eating meat is or bad. um Brilliant read from Nancy Cartwright.
Yeah.
Another like I'm not gonna lie, like individual lines, my favorite ones are probably most favorite lines would probably be from Bart. I'd say would be Bart lines just because Nancy is so gifted and she's such a good delivery and such great
Yeah.
timing. Like her timing is so good.
Yeah.
So I'd say Nancy and then probably Pamela Hayden with Millhouse and especially with the early seasons, Yardley Smith. Like Yardley Smith delivering like some of those Lisas, like just the power and the enthusiasm and the New England accent and just like she has such a unique voice.
Yeah.
Like she's such a gifted, unique voice. And you really see it in like the Lisa episodes. And
I have 2 Lisa episodes in my top 10 coming up. So stay
I've got
tuned.
I've got a few in mine too. No,
Mine are better. No.
Okay, so Lisa the Vegetarian, an awesome one for me. What is your number 7?
My number 7 is the other one outside of the first 3 seasons, season 7, episode 4, written by Greg Daniels. Bart sells his soul.
That's a good one. It's a really good one.
Again, this could be up there too. Oh, you know what? I actually have that at number 6. I skipped number 7 by accident. We're
7.
switching the order now. Okay, so this is number 7, and that's going to be number 6. Okay, so Bart sells his soul. Like I said, it's a great episode. It really shows the vulnerability of Bart when that's what I like. Like when you have Bart's like this wisecracking asshole. What are the best episodes? The ones where he really gets into deep shit, and he really has to struggle out of it, and he's not as confident and self-assured as he used to. And I just love it because it's just like so simple, and like, obviously it's a metaphor, but it's also like, yeah, he's like, oh man, I like, there's stuff that not everything. I can't just be the cynical asshole all the time. I can't just, sell my soul. Like, he sells his soul. All of a sudden, like, he can't breathe fog on the glass. The dog is just biting his ass. Like, it's funny. The automatic doors don't register him anymore. Like, it's just hilarious, but also emotional at the same time. And at the end, the big fat dumb, I shouldn't say fat, but the big the big donkus comic book guy buys a soul, and he's so nonchalant about it. Yeah, I bought it, but I sold it to someone else, treating his soul like a comic book. And then of course at the end, Lisa saves the day.
Yeah. 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 Lisa, with the change in her piggy bank, she buys his soul back. Nah, there's something about Lisa. There is something about Lisa. Wait, Simpsons writers way ahead of their time. Telling you, ahead of their time.
Yeah. What's your number 7?
Let's see. Trilogy of Errors, written by, I think, Matt Selman, who, another brilliant Simpsons writer, very gifted, written some of the best episodes. When they brought Matt Selman on staff, I thought the episodes were going well. I think he's one of the funniest Simpsons writers, and one of the funniest Simpsons writers I've ever. Some of the funniest episodes I've ever watched are Matt Selman episodes. So I give Matt Selman tons of credit. He's written some really, really funny Simpsons episodes. Trilogy of Errors. I love how it's a parody of Run Lola Run, with the Lisa subplot and the 3 different stories that come together. And then when they show Lisa running, they play the Run Lola Run music. Like, I love how they like speed up the pace, and it reminds me of the intro where they did TikTok by Kesha as a Simpsons intro. When they did like a spoof of that, it reminds me of that. But it started with this Run Lola Run thing, which the music, like, just, for me, music can like make a show, or like make a moment, or add like such good accompaniment, or can give something more weight. And this shows the power of music. Like, honestly, like, the power of music, how amazing it is. It's just incredible. And you really, really see it in Trilogy of Errors, which is 3 different stories going on in just like a 22-minute period, and then you have them all dovetail and come together and interact, and they're like three completely, because it's showing the 3 different days, and it is a popular episode, and I totally agree, because it's such a brilliant episode, and just the use of music in the episode, and they use Happy Together by the Turtles, and a moment with voice of Frankie Muniz, plays the character Felonious, who is a Lisa love interest for the episode. So, which a love interest at 8 years old, that's pretty progressive, but that's
they're whatever age the writers want them to be.
Yeah, no, that's totally right. But yeah, like I guess they could be considered friends. So, but they show them spinning, and then they play Happy Together by the Turtles, and they just go to the good part of the song. Like they go to like the singing in harmony, and they're like, like it just works so well. It's so melodic, perfectly cut. One of the best music moments in television, I'd say. So that's one of the best. Run Lola Run, another one of the best ones. So 2 of the best music moments in TV. For that, you're on my list. Good job. Hats off. Amazing. Brilliant. I want everyone to see it. It's absolutely brilliant.
One of my upcoming episodes, there's an amazing music moment, but like funny wise, not heartfelt wise or like plot wise.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. That's a good one. Should I go with my next one now?
Absolutely. Are we on 6?
One, the 6 or 7, as I accidentally mixed them up.
No.
Is Simpson and Delilah.
That's a goodie. That's a real goodie. Ooh, it's a fun one.
I remember that was probably the fondest one I remember, and watching it back, I'm like, okay, my memories were like much like it would have been number 1 in my memory, but it fell to like 5 or 6 or so, whatever. But it's still great. It's still amazing. I loved Harvey Firestein, I think his name is.
Yup. Harvey Firestein. He's Carl. Okay.
Carl. It's Carl. Yeah, he's got an amazing voice, obviously, and he plays Homer's assistant. And it's so funny. Homer gets hair through Demoxenol, and then he his life turns around, and everything's amazing all of a sudden, and he's getting promoted. And it was hilarious. Like, hey, you want to go to the executive bathroom? And there's like ice and stuff.
Okay.
And then Carl, is like sending like anniversary gifts to his wife and stuff, and he's like, "I love you, Carl. I mean, Marge." And at the end, he blows all the money. At the end, his Demoxenol falls. His hair falls out, and he has like a presentation, and no one takes him seriously because he's got no hair.
Yeah.
It was just a great idea how, like, hey, if you're bald, like if you grow all this hair, all of a sudden everyone takes you seriously, and if you're bald, people treat you like crap. So that was one of my favorite episodes.
I'm not sure. Do you know who directed that one?
I don't know. I know it was like written by. I think it was written by this guy. Let's see, who was it written by? It was written by John Vitti. He wrote a lot of. He wrote a lot of
another great writer. He's another one.
I noticed he wrote most a lot of the episodes that I really liked. So I guess I really like his episodes. Directed by Rich Moore.
The layouts in the episode are really good. I'm not sure how it works in animation, but like the framing and just kind of like the camera shots, like
they're good.
Yeah,
like the transitions where like I love the transition in this episode that I really loved, and like I never remember transitions, but this one I did where I forget. It's like damn, something turns into like the building, like the squares of some
Yeah,
building.
the floor. I
The
think
floor,
it's
yeah,
it's the floor of like the fancy bathroom, and then
and it turned and into like a
yeah,
dark like like
yeah,
Smithers sneaking around, and it's just such a great mood change. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
oof, yeah.
Another transition that was in consideration for my top 10 but didn't make it was um, Brother, Where Art Thou? Where he's
Ooh,
in
yeah,
the limousine and like it's like Homer looking at himself, like the reflection of him, and the window
yeah,
goes down and it's like exactly him. That's another like great animation camera work.
I agree. That's another kind of yeah, um, yeah, great kind of transition or kind of playing with the shots and
Yeah.
yeah, oh man, yeah,
A lot of like
um,
through bar mug stuff. That was also like there's a lot of shots like through bar mugs, through the bottom
mm,
of a bar mug.
yeah,
Uh, and it's like
mm,
warped. Yeah,
mm,
I was going back. I was like, oh yeah, the like a lot of shots are really interesting and cool with the animation. Like
mm.
I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, uh, yeah. So I gave Rich Moore a lot of credit. Really talented director, gifted director. John Vitti wrote an excellent episode. Well directed, well
Mhm.
written, great episode. um,
Yeah.
let's see. Oh boy. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Number 6 for me would be a comic book guy episode.
Ooh.
Worst episode ever, which
Yeah.
I believe was written by it was either Ian Maxtone Graham or Larry Doyle. I believe it was Larry Doyle. And Larry Doyle also wrote I Love You or Beth Cooper, which was a really popular book. And
Yeah.
I didn't read the book, but I saw the movie. But the book was really popular.
Written uh
Very critically lauded.
written by Larry Doyle.
Larry Doyle.
Yeah.
Very talented writer. Has two of the best Simpsons jokes, in my opinion. So pretty much the episode is where comic book guy he has a heart attack. He has to go to the hospital. He starts a relationship with Principal Skinner's mom.
Yeah. I don't remember
So
this episode. Is it like a parody of Sunset Boulevard?
uh yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm sure the writers did that at some point. That might be a Ned Flanders one. That Welcome to Praiseland.
Okay.
I think that's in that one when he's dating Rachel Jordan, played by Sean Colvin. I think it's in that one. Uh, which is another solid episode. A little bit too unsavory for me, but uh, um, that's another really good one. But worst episode ever. Such a great showcase for comic book guy, and he's so funny in it. And he says human contact, the final frontier. And just Hank Azaria is such a brilliant comedian. He is so funny and so gifted. And comic book guy is one of his best characters. And it's so funny. And I love Hank Azaria so much.
I think his best acting work is though in the 1995 movie Heat. I think that far surpasses any of the Simpsons work he did. But that's just me.
He's in Heat.
Uh-huh. He's the guy, Al Pacino's famous line where he's like, "She got a great ass." He's saying that to Hank Azaria.
Oh boy.
But anyway, sorry.
No.
I thought you'd get these weird movie references. I don't know much about movies, but I know a few things.
Oh boy.
No, he's a great. What you were saying, yeah, he's so funny. I love it. Yeah, I love all this stuff, except for Apu. No, I'm kidding, but like, he doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah. No, but yeah.
Did they cast a new person for Apu? I haven't really followed it, or is he just gone?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Haven't really watched The Simpsons too much recently because I'm one of those guys. I'm kind of stuck in the golden age, Okay.
I support them. I just buy their merchandise now or watch them on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah, the shirt I got on.
Oh, is that a Simpsons shirt?
No. Okay.
I was like, it is yellow. That's the color of the Simpsons. This is this isn't the shirt. Trying to think if anyone wears striped polos at any time in The Simpsons.
Oh.
Nice.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's a fun one. And Milhouse and Bart run the comic shop, and Milhouse buys comics that are a superhero who wears glasses. And it's published by Lens Crafters, and Bart's like, you never buy a comic published by Lens Crafters, which I actually think Lens Crafters could probably make a pretty cool comic book. So
that's funny, yeah.
Yeah. So that was good. And then there's the money line where they do like the private collection, and Ralph comes in, and there's only like certain areas that people can go in, and Bart's like, you can't go in this area, it's like behind the curtain. And and then Ralph's like, oh, I want to go in, and Bart's like, okay. And so he lets him in, and then Ralph, one of Nancy's another one for brilliant readings. Buddy's hugging. And like, you don't even have to know what that means. Like, you just hear it and you just get a lift from it. Like, it's so like just an emotional, like, you get like such an emotional lift. Like, it just works so well on its own, and it's so well delivered, and it's such a perfect pitch. Like, she just understands acting so well, and she's one of the best voice actresses ever, and she honestly just understands it, and she nails that line just beautiful. Like, it's just,
there's another moment like that in my number 3 episode that I can't wait to talk about, because moments like that, like where it's just so good.
Yeah, like that made the whole scene for me. And like, one line can make a whole scene. It can in The Simpsons. All right, so that was
number 5.
What is number 5? So that was 6 for me. What is number 5 for you, my man?
This could be a lot higher too. It's really hard. But number 5 is Lisa's Pony.
Ooh.
Episode 3, season 3, episode 7, Lisa's Pony. This is what we were talking about, when Homer tries. It's just interesting to see at the beginning. Lisa's like, yeah, I got my it's talent show night, and she's like, I need to read for my saxophone, and Homer is like, yeah, I'll go to the music store, which is right next to Moe's Tavern, and he's like, ooh, it's open for 5 more minutes, get the read or get a beer. And then he gets a beer, and then it's closed, but the guy, the owner of the store, is there. One of the great lines is where like Homer's like an asshole to him, and then he's like, and then Mo is like, come on, open the store up for him. He's like, remember when I pulled your family out of that burning car? And he's like, okay, I'll open the store up. But then he gets the wrong read, and Lisa humiliates herself at the talent show. But a great musical moment in that talent show, which I believe they forgot to clear. So it cost them like $50,000 to get this 2 or 3 second song, was when one of the kids is singing, my ding-a-ling, I want you to play with my ding-a-ling. And then Skinner's like corrals him with the microphone. It's like, this act is over. That was amazing. And of course, then Homer, to make up for it, buys her a pony and gets a second job working at the Quickie Mart. And Bart is jealous, and he's like, why don't I get a pony, or why don't I get something? He's like, because Lisa stopped loving me. And he's like, well, I stopped loving you. He's like, no, you don't, boy. You secretly love me, or whatever. Like, I just loved how like messed up the logic is. Like, yeah, I'm being nice. Like I'm going all through this because she stopped loving me. But it was, and then at the end, it's just this is probably one of the most emotional ones at the end, where it's like, Lisa, you need to make a choice between your dad or the pony. And she's like, well, only you can make it. And then she's like, she makes the choice, obviously, to get rid of the pony. But like, there's this really like talk about like emotional voice acting where she's like, and she likes being read books in the evening, and she likes bad. And she's just like talking about all these things that her horse likes. And the like British pony woman is like, I assure you, my heart is breaking, or whatever. That was, and then there's at the end hero moment where he goes out. I think he carries Lisa out or something, but but Apu is like, he spit in the toasters. He was rude to the customers, but there goes the greatest employee the Quickie Mart has ever had. He ate the wieners. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's good. And that's the writers using the Apu character really well. Like that's writing some good Apu in there.
It was a good episode.
And Homer did really try, and he tried for Lisa.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't really try for Bart that often, but he will try for Lisa.
Well, one of my coming up episodes, he does try very hard for Bart. So
all right,
stay tuned, listeners of the Drew Garrison podcast.
Oh boy,
Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Garrison. What's your sister's name? Hi.
No. Yeah.
Your family doesn't watch, but no, they probably. I don't know. I'm just joking. I'm just busting your balls.
No. It's totally cool.
Are your parents? Do your parents watch or anything? Listen.
You're
not sure.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
If you do watch, give Drew like a pat on the back and say, "We're proud of your work, son. We're proud of you."
Oh boy! All right.
I'm just trying to make it weird for you. Sorry, I like.
No. It's
your parents are awesome, by the way. For listeners who don't know, your parents.
I appreciate that.
Unless they're hiding dark secrets, I don't actually know.
No.
No dark secrets. Okay, good.
They're really.
They are okay.
Cool people.
My parents are hiding dark secrets, so it's just.
Oh boy. Let's see.
You uncomfortable? Sorry.
No, it's totally cool, dude. All right, so let's get into episode 5. All right, so episode 5 for me is Lisa Goes to Washington. A Lisa episode because love Lisa, and she wins an essay contest because her essay is unbelievable. It knocks it out of the park. Uh, just um, uh, just perfection. And they think that the judges think Lisa's dad wrote it, but no, Lisa wrote it. And then it turns into cesspool on the Potomac. Once Lisa witnesses politicians making a bribe at one of the memorials, and politicians are like, "Yep, see, I told you no one ever comes here."
Yeah.
and then Lisa's there, and then she watches it, and she loses faith in humanity, and then the system's like, okay, a little girl is losing faith in humanity, and they try to make it better again, but Yardley Smith gives one of the best performances in animation ever. And my favorite Yardley line in any Simpsons episode is when, she's giving her speech, and she says, "And who did I see taking a bribe but the Honorable Bob Arnold?" Like taking a bribe, like the emphasis she puts on taking a bribe, like, oh my goodness, like, oh, just spades, like hearts, stars, 5 stars, top 10, straight A's, A plus, spades, just. And who did I see taking up, like, oh man, like, so good. Could listen to that line every day, could listen to it every day, and I don't say that about everything, so could listen to it every day. So I give Yardley endless props for that. That should live on. And that episode, brilliantly shot, brilliantly edited, brilliantly written. Yeah. No, so Lisa Goes to Washington, just one of my favorites. What is number 4 for you?
Number 4 is, and this is one of the only 2 episodes from the first season. This is season 1, episode 11, Crepes of Wrath.
Oh boy.
I love this episode for many reasons. One of it was I started watching The Simpsons on DVD when I lived in France. So like, this is an episode about Bart going to France, and they got the cultural aspect of it pretty correct. Like, I never like was in his experience where they like send you to where they like, it's like an exchange situation, but everyone I've talked to who does it, it's like not dissimilar to this. Obviously they're not like used to work like a donkey, but like they go to like horrible, like they're French, so amazing, they go to like horrible like family situations where a family takes you in, for money or whatever, and it's just like they're like, I've had people who like, they were living in the projects, or they're living in like deep country France where there's like nothing to do except smoke and drink. Like it's, and it was funny where like Bart was like, goes up to a police officer and he's like, "Hey, they're mistreating me. They're treating me horribly. They're making me work all." And he's like, I don't care. And he's like, and also they put antifreeze in the wine. And he's like, oh my God, this is criminal. Like, that is like a friend, like, they don't care as much about like, it's more okay to like not be as nice to kids there. But and then also the Simpsons get a deal, who is hilarious, where he's like a spy for Albania,
Okay.
which was funny. And they like, Lisa and him are having an argument, and Homer's like, maybe Lisa's right that America is the land of opportunity, or maybe Adil's right that the machines of capitalism are oiled by the blood of their workers. Anyway,
um
that's one of my favorite Simpsons lines.
Man, that's really great. And of course, it's a Lisa line. Like they wrote Lisa really well, and you believe it. You believe Lisa does know what she's talking about, which
Yeah, and
is
it's yeah. Well, Homer had that line specifically, but
okay.
uh, but it's funny because uh, it's kind of the before Lisa version, the version of Lisa who wrote the essay about how great America is before she witnessed all the bribes and corruption. Um, but and like it's funny, the beginning of this start, Bart gets deported to France essentially because he cherry bombs the toilets while Principal Skinner's mom is on the toilet. So like it's like and I guess it explodes. So that's just a funny moment as well. But yeah, I
Holy
just
cherry
uh,
pie.
and I just liked it, because it was about France. Bart speaks French, and
And you lived in France.
it was why, yeah, I was watching this when I lived in France. That's when I got into The Simpsons, when we bought like all the DVDs about 2003. We just bought all the DVDs from our local grocery store. They had like Simpsons season 1, 2, and 3. So yeah,
It's awesome.
it was amazing.
That is that's yeah, it's awesome, James. Um yeah, and that's another brilliant kind of social political commentary. Like The Simpsons always do great social and political commentaries. That's another really good one. Uh yeah, I think the first time I watched that, I was at a neighbor's house actually, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I knew Bart was in France, and it's like, okay, Bart's in France, stuff's going on, and then
Yeah.
you pay attention to it, and it's like, okay, this is a really dark episode. Okay.
Yeah, it was dark. They're like treating the donkey better than him and stuff. And but I'm
Yeah.
like, it's actually not like as dark as it seems. I'm like, I could totally see that happening even today.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Mm, um. Um. All right. So, my fourth favorite episode of all time would be Lisa Gets an A, which I think is season 10. It's either 9 or 10. And um, Lisa, it's another great Lisa episode. It's where Lisa does get sick and she doesn't want to go to school, but then she actually falls in love with staying home. And uh, she stays at home for a few days. She misses a test. She goes to school. She doesn't know what to do on the test. And so she goes to Nelson, and he helps her out. He gets her answers to the test. So goes to Nelson, to his office in the bathroom, and he has the answers in like the tank of the toilet, and he pulls up. So, um, and on the commentary, I know that creator Matt Groening said that he had a friend that was like Nelson, and for like a quarter, Nelson would tear out a page of from your permanent record. So uh, um, Nelson kind of runs stuff. So this was an episode where Nelson ran stuff. So I found that funny, and uh you know and he's like, Lisa, can I put you in my uh uh Rolodex? And like as a kid watching it, I didn't know what a Rolodex was, but again, it's how Nancy delivers the line. He's like, can I put you in my Rolodex? Like,
And now no one does, because no one uses Rolodexes anymore. But yeah, so funny, classic 90s Rolodex.
yeah, And I guess it's also a euphemism for, I guess Nelson's kind of a drug dealer, like in that way. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
like
kind of like
only
parody. Yeah.
he's giving her like test answers. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
It's a parody of like dealing drugs. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, which it's obviously a kid friendly version, but it's and that's good. Like kids shouldn't get drugs in elementary school. Like no, like just no.
Good grades are the drugs.
Hmm, there for Lisa Simpson. She really cares about those grades. But it also has another one of my favorite Simpsons lines ever, where Homer shoves Lisa in the fridge where when they're at the grocery store because they go there on Sundays to get free samples. There were grocery stores in my area that also did this. Let's see, went to Freshfields, Gennardi's, where you used to work, James.
Oh yeah,
They
you're naming
sometimes
all the
did they do free samples at your Gennardi's?
maybe sometimes, but rarely. You're naming all the grocery stores that don't exist anymore. Rushfield, Gennardi's, Ames. We used to shop at Ames all the time. Kmart's, big Kmart family. What else
Yeah,
does exist?
but it was a parody of that. Like the writers would spoof or riff on like
Yeah.
whatever was in vogue, and then it was so clever and like really funny.
I remember going in and getting all the free samples at Freshfields. It was awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and so at the grocery store in the episode, like they parody all these ice cream flavors, which I think was kind of a take on Ben and Jerry's. Like Ben and Jerry's doing like Chunky Monkey and Cherry Garcia. So they do some of their own, and you hear Lisa reading them. Like Candy Warhol and Honey Bono, and then Homer just goes for it when like Lisa like pulls out like one of them, and then he's like, ugh. Sherbert Hoover. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
um, um, Sherbert Hoover. Like, oh man, just and it's the rules of threes in comedy. One of the big things is rules of threes, and they do it in Simpsons, and they do it really well. But no, I think The Simpsons is the best written television show in TV history. Personal favorite TV show would be Stranger Things, but in terms of just comedy writing, I'd say Simpsons.
Gotcha. Number 3 for me.
Yes, sir.
Number 3 is from season 2, episode 13, Homer vs. Lisa and the Eighth Commandment.
That's a good one.
Yeah, this is a Homer Lisa episode. And what I liked about these early episodes, and specifically this one, is just like how sad and desperate they are. They just want small things. They just want like free cable or whatever. Their life is miserable with it. And they're like, let's just do some free cable. What's the big deal? And yeah, it was just such a good episode where they're like, watching, where it's like, yes, give me free cable, and Flanders like, that devil man, and sends him away. And it's like a small thing, but it like turns into like, actually it's a big moral situation. But I love, like, there was a moment where like Bart was like bringing all the kids to see like the Playboy channel or whatever.
That's so Bart. Oh my goodness, so Bart.
Like, gentlemen, Top Hat Theater presents or whatever, and and they're like, ew, and then what's his name? Is it Nelson? Yeah, Nelson's no, not Nelson. Not Ralph. Who's the like redheaded nerdy kid?
um
Name.
Uh,
or brown-haired nerdy kid.
would it be Wendell?
No, I forget his name, but he goes, they're like, ew, gross, and then he goes, but oddly compelling.
Is it Lewis?
No, what's his name? He's more, I don't think so. I don't know. I forget. He's like more popular than those characters.
Okay.
But like I think Nancy Cartwright does his voice too.
Okay.
Anyway,
Would it be Kearney?
no, I forget. He's like Simpsons nerds. What's his name? Whatever. I forget his name. He's like more popular. I'm trying to think of what a major storyline is. Anyway, I forget. But anyway, like his hair is like combed. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I just really like this, and like just the moral like challenge where Lisa's like going through, where she's like, oh no, you know, I believe this is wrong. It's not that big a deal, but I think it's wrong, so I'm not going to do it. And she, she just has this whole moral struggle, and then slowly but surely she like gets Homer. Like she's just standing there at like weird parts where like Homer starts to realize
Uh,
it's wrong, and she sees them all burning in hell, and then it ends with like the big fight, Dredrick Tatum versus whatever, and
Frederick
everyone,
Tatum.
including like Mr. Burns, comes over to see it, and Lisa's like, well, I'm not gonna see it, and he's like, okay, fine, and he gets out, and none of them see it eventually, but like one of the like all the different like channels on cable, because cable was a new thing at this time. It's funny, it's like he's like they're like, the woman channel, we're going to teach you how to make your own bandages. First, you just need 6 yards of sterilized cotton or whatever. um, there's that, and yeah, I just really like this episode. The emotions of this episode are really good. This is another Lisa episode.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Lisa episodes. I just looked it up. Also, a Rich Moore episode for direction. So another Rich Moore directed.
Yeah.
You can see it too, like again with the transitions from shots and the emotional appeals from like some of the shots and how they resonate and how they sync with the music and how like the camera helps tell the story and how like the imagery. So, honestly, Rich Moore, super talented. I don't know what he's up to now, but really talented Simpsons,
Yeah.
really good Simpsons director.
Yeah. What is he up to now?
Let's see. Um, let's see.
He's
Co-directed Zootopia and Ralph Breaks the Internet. Man,
there you go, doing stuff.
and Wreck-It Ralph, which really good movie. Like really, really good movie. Worked on The Critic too, which I love. The Critic is so much.
I know.
Mhm.
I remember you talking about it, and you want to be a critic.
Yeah. I've written a few reviews on a now defunct blog I did with a friend of mine. We did a blog called Cream of Culture, and I had a few reviews on there. And no, yeah. So any given time, aspiring critic, I still write reviews.
Awesome.
And yeah, I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Save the plugs for the end. No, I'm kidding.
um, um, let's see. All right. So let's see. Number 3 for me. This is a big one. This is a biggie. Um, or guest appearance by Dustin Hoffman.
I know this one. This is a good one.
Lisa substitute.
It's a good one.
So Miss Hoover gets Lyme disease, and she has to go on a leave. So they bring in a random guy to teach the class, and he's voiced by Dustin Hoffman, and or Mr. Bergstrom, and he is so funny. Like, and he says, "Feel free to make fun of my name. Call me Mr. Nerdstrom or Mr. Boogerstrom."
Yeah.
But he's such a great father figure for Lisa, and he really cultivates her gifts, and he encourages her saxophone playing, and he encourages her creativity, and he encourages her knowledge, and he's so encouraging for Lisa, and he really wants to have her blossom. And you can see that Homer isn't really, I think Homer recognizes that his daughter is something special, that she is really talented, but he doesn't really know how to cultivate it. Which is interesting because in this episode, he's actually cultivating Bart more. Like he's grooming Bart more for class president, and Bart loses the election. He's like, "This is the worst thing ever." And Lisa's like, "Mr. Bergstrom left today." And Homer's like, "No, the worst thing ever happened. Bart lost the class presidency. That is the worst thing." So, but then later he realizes that Lisa needs some TLC with her dad. You know, she needs some quality time, and they make up, and their relationship's stronger. But it's such a touching and powerful episode, and really funny. And when Mr. Bergstrom leaves on the train, he gives her a note, and it says, "You are Lisa Simpson." And I remember the writers on the commentary said that they had never been given like such a big reaction from audiences or fans that said that was just such a big moment, and it meant a lot, and it was really heartfelt, and it resonated emotionally. So an episode where the Simpsons staff really hit out of the park, the actors hit out of the park. Dustin Hoffman gives a virtuoso performance, like A+ tour de force, just an incredible performance. Like, oh my goodness, Dustin Hoffman is so amazing in this role. Okay. Yeah, so Lisa Substitute, one of my favorite episodes. And the B story is also Bart running for class president against Martin, and he's crushing Martin in the polls, and then all his friends forget to vote, and Martin's president, which is probably for the best. So
Yeah, it's a good one.
What is episode 2 for you?
Episode 2
Yes, sir.
Is Radio Bart.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. And it's also one that this happens all the time with The Simpsons, is you don't know what it's parodying until 20 years after you've seen the episode, or 10 years after. Like, I didn't realize that this Radio Bart is parodying the movie Ace in the Hole.
Ooh. Yeah, I know that either.
Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's a Billy Wilder. Are you familiar with his work?
He did Sunset Boulevard, right?
He did Sunset Boulevard,
All
Ace
right.
in the Hole, Double Indemnity.
That's a good one.
But Ace in the Hole is starring Kurt Douglas. Yeah, and it's just a really good movie about like a disgraced newspaper guy who like moves to like some small town in New Mexico, and a guy gets trapped in a mine, and he's like keeping him there for attention, and like a whole carnival pops up around the mine and stuff like that, and they're like, "Sheriff, keep him in there, you need to win re-election." So it's a parody of that, where Bart, but what's really interesting is like it's the Mr. Microphone, which is hilarious. In they have like Mr. Microphone commercial where they're like, you know, the idea is like you can speak through any radio with your microphone, which isn't exactly how it works, but for the episode, it's funny. And it's like guys, it's like the dumbest, like guys driving by and speaking through the mic, like, girls, we'll be back to pick you guys up later, and they're like, it's funny. And so Bart gets it, and he thinks it sucks, but then he realizes that he can prank people, so he pranks Rod and Todd into thinking he's God. And then the biggest prank he does is he pranks Homer, who's like mad, but then he's like, actually, you like this though, it's my present. And he pranks people into thinking he gets trapped down the well. And then ironically, he gets trapped down the well, and no one wants to help him. And then they like do this carnival pops up around the well, and they do this like We Are the World, except down the well.
So good. It's wonderful.
We're sending our love down the well. Krusty is like going crazy and stuff like that. And they get Sting.
Down that well.
Sting is one of their celebrity guests. They were supposed to get they wanted to get Bruce Springsteen, but they couldn't get a hold of him. Actually, one of the writers like accosted him on the street in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Movie, like, hey, you want to do The Simpsons? He's like, oh wow, like, yeah. And it didn't end up happening. But like all the lines, if you listen, are like written for Bruce Springsteen, but Sting is saying them. So it's like about some guy who gets dropped in the well or something. That's Bruce, but Sting saying it, so it like doesn't sound like Sting, but it's still hilarious. It's just a good episode. It's one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, honestly, Sting in this episode, like, he's awesome in it. Like, he's like, it's really cool. And when they show him, like, when he helps dig Bart out of the well, like, Marge's like, Sting, you can take a break, and he's like, not when one of my fans needs me. So he's like, I don't know what this is all for, like, it's stuck in a well or something, but we all have to come together and we all have to do this. And you do really believe that the Sting character in the episode is really driven to do this, and you do believe in him, and he's very genuine and likable, and one of the best cameos, I think, in the history of the show, I'd say.
Yeah. Sorry, my parents are trying to call me. I was like, it can't go much longer than 2 hours. We'll be okay.
No, yeah.
No, I love it. It's been great. We're almost at the end. I'm sorry for that interruption.
That's all right. We are at number 2, and let's see. For me, it would be Bart on the Road. And Bart on the Road, another great music episode. And also Bart, he wants to do spring break right, so he arranges for Martin, Nelson, and Milhouse to all go to Knoxville, Tennessee. And he uses this story of, we're going to the National Grammar Rodeo, and then Nelson's like, we're going to a grammar rodeo? Oh no, a grammar rodeo. Like, and Bart's like, we're not going to a grammar rodeo. It's great, and Martin's excited about it, and Milhouse is like along for the ride. So they're all really into it, and there's so many great songs in it. And on the DVD version, you get to see something that wasn't on the TV version, where Dan Castellaneta is driving the car, and he's like, if you kids don't quiet down, there's going to be no Cape Canaveral for anyone. Oh, and there's something about the power of the k sound in comedy. Like K's or C's are just so funny in comedy. And
Yeah.
like Cape Canaveral, like there's some like, oh, it's so funny. Like Cape Canaveral, like such great alliteration, brilliant. That's brilliant. And then the music stuff with Andy Williams, with Bart, and Nelson's a big Andy Williams fan, and they're in Francis, Missouri. And Nelson's like, Andy Williams. And Bart's like, we don't have to stop here. And Nelson's like, yes, we do. So they go to the show, and the Andy Williams song Moon River is playing. And it shows them all like asleep. They're all like passed out, just completely in the audience. Like they're all passed out, and then Moon River's playing, and then it shows Nelson, and he's so into it. And it's like shows you another side of Nelson, and he's got depth, and he has sensitivity, like kind of like the gentle giant, the shy, there is the shyness to him, and he has great taste in music. He likes Andy Williams, and the way the song is cut and mixed into it, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and me. Like that's so great, and it's excellent mixing, excellent cutting. Yeah, so Bart on the Road. One of my favorites, another great episode that uses music really well, and just about spring break. They tackle spring break. But love Bart on the Road. Are we at number one?
We're at number one.
What is number one for you, James?
Number one, I chose this because it's just, I love the episode, and like probably any one of, like a lot of these could have been number one for me, but this is just like classic Simpsons. This is just what I think of when I think of the Simpsons episode. It's the Telltale Head.
Ooh.
That's I just think it's quintessential Simpsons. It's from the first season. I think it really defined the show. And I just really enjoyed the episode. I loved it. The only thing that was like different and interesting that they kind of haven't been doing in later seasons is the structure. It was like different. Like it starts out at like they didn't have an audience yet, so they had to like start out at the most exciting moments of the action and then cut back and do it as if like Bart's telling the story of what happened, which was interesting. But it worked, and it was great, and it's just a classic episode of like Bart, trying to be cool, and he's like hanging out with the bullies, and they're all doing bad stuff, and he's trying to impress him, and then they're like, and they like put the idea in the head of like cutting off the head of Jebediah Springfield, and then the bullies kind of reject him. He's like, I know, to impress them, I'll cut their head off. And he does. And when he realizes that's everyone hates him for doing that, even the bullies, it's just an interesting, development of the story. And at the end, they all catch him, and he has to say he's sorry and stuff like that. But it was a great episode.
Absolutely. And just to get kind of in the Simpsons lore, later in the series, they established that Jebediah Springfield is basically...
Oh, not a good guy.
No, he's actually Hans Sprungfeld. So there was no actual Jebediah Springfield.
Right.
So,
they actually do allude to this briefly, where they're I think there's like a news report where they're like, we don't think this actually happened or something. They do allude to it briefly in this episode, where like Jebediah Springfield is made up or something like that. So it's interesting.
So maybe Bart, maybe it's like the Emperor's clothes or something. Like he's the only one that sees the emperor for being naked. Like he sees the truth in it. But
Yeah.
so that would be kind of the bigger takeaway. But it's really Bart's trying to impress his new friends. So he's trying to impress his new friends. So he cuts off the head of the statue. But on a bigger, like more philosophical level, I think you could say maybe like he's slaying a hero, maybe he's slaying God. And like don't worship false gods. And like Jebediah Springfield is actually not that great. So
Yeah.
I feel like what you were saying, the writers are kind of looking at that. So I think they do dig deeper. But no, I actually never made that connection till now. So thank you very much. Yeah, no, and Telltale Head, like that's season 1, but that could have been 2 or 3. Like that's one of like the more mature episodes. You can see that the show's already evolving. Like
Yeah.
it's a really solid episode.
Yeah. And of course, like Homer finds out about it and takes responsibility. He's like, "You're my son. I gotta help. We gotta do the right thing and everything like that." So he is really like supporting Bart through this and everything. He's like, when I was your age, son, I did a lot of stupid things too. It was like interesting and depth there.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Boy.
My camera's about to die, so I'll go blank for a second. I'm sorry.
It's cool. All right. Are you still here?
I'm still here. Let me just get the new battery in.
All right, sounds good, man.
Okay, there we go.
All right. James and Drew on the Drew and Me podcast. We're doing top 10 Simpsons episodes, and we're at number 1 for James. It was Telltale Head. For Drew, it is gonna be one of Matt Groening's personal favorite episodes. He said this on the commentary, which is Boy Scouts in the Hood, which is in season 5.
Yeah.
The reason why this is my favorite episode, I could watch this episode every day. Watchability. Not a frame is wasted. Joke per like every frame. Dialogue is really funny. It's just like joke and joke and joke. This was an episode I discovered later. Just like super funny, wall to wall. And it's an episode where Bart gets motivated, which we were talking about some episodes of Homer like getting motivated to try, but Bart becomes a Boy Scout and he gets pretty good at it. And then Homer kind of gets in the way, but but Flanders kind of takes Bart under his wing, and he really kind of develops Bart into like a really good Boy Scout, and Bart's like into it. And one of the funniest parts in the episode is where they're watching Itchy and Scratchy, and and Bart's like really into it, and Lisa's laughing at it, and Bart's like, these writers don't know squat. And he's like, they should have used like the top line hitch instead of like the other type of knot. And he's getting like so into like how to do the tent. Like he's so into it. Like it's super compelling. Just like in just in that way, it's like super compelling. And then again, another good music moment where Homer is dancing to Sugar Sugar by the Archies. He's dancing to the Archies song because he's having a fantasy, and there's like candy all around him, and he's dancing, and it's like sugar, oh honey, honey, like, and he's so into it, and it's so funny. And then it ends up to just be like a fantasy, and then the tape dies, and then he like throws it overboard, and I think Rod's like, hey, I got that for my birthday. And so um just it's so like just there's so many great jokes in here, and just like the beginning's really great too. And it starts with Milhouse and Bart making a super squishy, and uh Apu's like, if you survive, please come again. So but and they both put the straws in it, and it's like it's so thick. And it's interesting because Milhouse goes first with the which it's usually Bart. Like he's usually runs the show, but Milhouse, like he like takes the sips of the squishy, which is like really cool. And he's like, your turn, Bart. Like it's interesting. And then Bart gets really into it. And I guess it's also kind of a metaphor for like smoking cigarettes or doing something like that for the first time, but instead they're doing it with sugar, they're doing it with, which is a very clever Simpsons way of doing it. And then it kind of starts out with them, I think, in the arcade, and it's like Bart says he's out of money, and Milhouse says, don't say that out loud. And then you see the guys that work at the arcade, they come there and they're like, I'm sorry, you'll have to leave. They got the cameras, they're like, okay, two Caucasian males are out of money, so they have to leave. But such another good Milhouse moment, such a great Pamela Hayden line reading of "Don't say that out loud." Like there's like such great Milhouse lines too. And he's only in the beginning of the episode, and he like steals the scenes he's in and rocks them. Uh, um. So just like start to finish, this is a perfect episode. Like perfect, and just like full arc, full completed, comes full circle. I know that Matt Groening loves the ones that have like the meaning and the full circle, and he loves the Bart character too. He really does. And this is an episode where Bart is motivated, and where Homer and Bart ultimately do work together. And Homer takes them to the Krusty Burger that's located on like a random dock somewhere, and it shows Krusty like smoking. He's like, I think I'm gonna take a pass on this. Because it's at the oil rig. But it's like brilliant social commentary. And I agree with Matt Groening. Like, this is the best Simpsons episode. This is my favorite Simpsons episode. And this was one that wasn't on TV that much when I was growing up. This was an episode that I discovered later on the DVDs, but just every shot, every frame, every scene, there's a funny joke. Like pound for pound, the funniest Simpsons episode. This is one of the episodes I've watched the most. I can rewatch it the most because it's just so funny. And the story is also really good. And it's also shows Bart being motivated. And that's awesome. And he's motivated in a few different ways. So yeah, it's
good.
Great episode. All right. Let's see, I guess, just for fans, let's just do a brief run through of 10 through 1 of the names of the episodes again. Let's start with your list.
Okay, my list I have You Only Move Twice, Burns, Vancouver, Bart the Murderer, Simpson and Delilah, Bart Sells His Soul, Lisa's Pony, Creps of Wrath, Homer vs. Lisa and the Eighth Commandment, Radio Bart, and The Telltale Head.
All right. Personal favorites from your list would be Bart Sells His Soul and Radio Bart.
Yeah, great one.
My list: Lisa the Simpson, Bart's Girlfriend, Lisa the Vegetarian, Trilogy of Errors, worst episode ever, Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington, Lisa Gets an A, Lisa's Substitute, Bart on the Road, and Boy Scouts in the Hood. There we go. Yay. Okay. This was fun. This has been a Drew and Me podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening.
Check out my YouTube channel. That's my big I make a lot of videos about stand-up comedy, and they're like stories from beginning to end about like an aspect of stand-up comedy. My last video was about me going to Texas and exploring the stand-up comedy scene there. I have a lot of different interesting stories. Check it out.
What is your channel called, James?
It's called James McElhinney, youtube.com/James McElhinney. I have 500 subscribers and growing, so come check it out. People
That's awesome,
like
dude.
James, yeah.
That's awesome, buddy. That's great. I'm really happy for you. Let's see. Do you want to link it in the chat real quick?
Sure. I'll just do, let me type it. How do you do the chat? Here we go.
All right. YouTube.com, James McElhinney.
Yeah.
Check it out and subscribe.
Are you gonna do like a thing on the screen, or put it in the comments? I don't know. Oh, you don't have to. I didn't mean to like put you on the spot or anything.
No, that's cool. Yeah. All right. Check it out. James' YouTube channel. It's really cool. And you can watch this podcast on Drew Paul Garrison. That's my first name, that's my middle name, that's my last name. So you can check it out. James, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. This was really fun to kind of go through our favorite Simpsons episodes. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you guys for watching and tuning in.
Thank you for having me, Drew. It's always good to see you.
Always good to see you too, buddy. Have a good night, guys.